people always say like, hey, you have a great tone, and I'm like, yeah, I know. Thank you. I'm Mike. I'm a guitar player here from Berlin and a studio musician, music producer, just a regular guy around the corner. My business is, as far as playing music, playing guitar goes, is most of the time touring. Well, at least it used to be before the pandemic, but most of the time is touring. Sometimes a like studio job recording here and there. And if neither of those, and I'm home in Berlin, I'm here in my studio writing for other people as a songwriter, producer. But as far as guitar playing goes, mainly touring, yeah. Sometimes I also mix and master, not that often, but if the opportunity comes, why not? Two milestones that actually got me into like playing the guitar or wanting to learn to play the guitar was like funny story. First one was, it's one of those very little memories that I still remember from being like a little kid when we moved to Berlin with my parents, because we originally come from Poland. We watched Back to the Future on television, and in the first part where Marty McFly plays at the ball, I remember this so vividly because he had this, what was it, I think a Gibson ES-335 Custom or something, and he was playing Johnny B. Good. And I found it so cool as a kid that I remember like my father bought me the movie on tape, and I was watching just this one scene over and over and over again because I wanted to do the same thing so bad. So that was the thing that actually I think got me into making music. And the other thing was that my father, when he was younger, he used to be like a huge metalhead. He was like into thrash metal, Metallica, Anthrax and all that. And one day he borrowed a DVD from the Metallica concert Cunning Stunts, where like the whole stage falls apart and everything. And I didn't know what Metallica was. I didn't know the people, and I came in while he was watching the concert. And in the beginning of the concert, it starts that every band member is walking into the arena and everybody is like celebrating them. And then I remember that James Hetfield came and his guitar tech gave him his Explorer, and I never saw this guitar before, and he like he put it over and it was like hanging super low, and I was like, who is this guy? So that was the other like milestone where I told my father like, please buy me a guitar, like I want to do this so bad. I started playing classic guitar. I had lessons in classical guitar first, and after that my father bought me my first electric guitar, which was like this basic starter set. It was like a Ibanez GIO with an amp and a gig bag like that normal starter set. So my first amp was this little Ibanez practice amp, and then I think I bought used from a friend of mine who was also a musician. I bought a Boss Metal Zone. It was like the ugliest guitar tone, but to me it was amazing. So that was my first journey tone-wise, like with this little practice amp and that Boss. And from there on, I think I put some money back, you know, working, doing small jobs. I was still a teenager back then, and I bought myself a Boss GT8, that multi-effect pedal thing. And then I sold it at some point because I didn't like it. But I had this thing for a while, and I was plugging it in to an old like transistor, or what you call it, yeah, solid state combo from Crate, I think, from a friend of mine, with a 4x12. I don't remember the brand of it, but that was like my basic thing first. So I started very simple. Like, we didn't have a lot of money, my parents. Like, we were not poor, but like my father never gave me like a fancy guitar or anything. So I learned to be happy with what I had. So as long as I had a guitar and an amp to plug in, I was fine, and the rest I would figure out somehow. But I never had like lots of stuff to experiment with, you know. If you want to sit with me and nerd around about gear, I think I'm the wrong guy, because I was always like just plug it in and let's go. So I never had this like huge journey of tones and everything. just whatever was there, I was happy with, and I could work with it, and then I was okay. Pretty late, actually. I discovered it on the internet, of course, on YouTube. I think I saw a rig rundown from Matt Heafy from Trivium, and he had the Kemper, and I didn't know what it was, so I looked it up, and I remember him telling that since he has the Kemper, I think he was using the head, not the rack version. He said since he has the Kemper, he's not touring with amps anymore because he doesn't need it. So obviously I looked it up, and I wanted to know what it is. I know it's a profiler, so I started reading into it. I was like, oh, that's really cool. But I was kind of skeptical at first, because I'm always skeptical with new things. Like, I'm used to my stuff, and whatever is new, I'm like, huh? But then the second time I was on tour with Nico, and before I switched to the Kemper, I had my Vox AC30 and like a British Racing Green, whatever, and my pedal board. And I tried to do the pedal board like a multi-effect pedal board with MIDI and everything. It was kind of complicated. The pedal board was huge, and I was always a little bit annoyed because it was so big, and you know how those concerts are, it gets pretty hectic. And then I met Jacob Nebel, who joined the band, and he came with the Kemper, and I was like, man, and he has this thing, and he had this head, and we were having rehearsals, and he had like an amazing tone. Like I was like, like that's coming out of this thing, and he had everything, and I think he was the least stressed in rehearsals of us both, because like if Nico wanted to him to change the sound or anything, he already had everything there. He was just turning knobs, and if I had to change something, it was super stressful. So I remember we did 2019 the whole season, and I was playing with my Vox and my pedal board, and after that I said, no way, like I want to try it out, and that's how we came together. And after that, like, I'm not using amps anymore, like. And if it's so funny, because now every time I turn on an amp, if I just want to like have the feeling and just doodle around, I find it so loud. I'm like, man, this thing is so loud, like how did I do that? So even now I'm using the Kemper most of the time because I got used to it and I'm lazy, and it's great. Like, I have everything in there. So I was maybe used to it from the beginning, having like the Boss, and I remember when I was at home I would play through headphones, so it wasn't that much of a difference. But also I was always very eager in learning stuff when I was younger, and when we would go with, I don't know, our old bands or whatever in studios, so I was always very eager to learn, and I was annoying the engineers with questions and everything. I do the same still live with Nico, for example. I'm annoying our front of house guy, so greetings, with like, how does it sound? So in my head, I know more or less, of course not exactly, but more or less how the sound is when, I don't know, microphone is here or there, or how the sound is outside. And I think what also helped me is the fact that when you're producing or mixing stuff, you always hear everything in context. So and then you really need to watch for how your tone is, how much reverb you have, delay. So I have, like, I think more or less a good grasp of how guitar sounds like in different situations. So it was alright. Actually, it was way better for me because I just had the sound in my ears and I was like, oh, finally. And it never changes, so I try to have a sound for every situation. And for example, on the Kemper, which I'm only using the Kemper right now, no matter if it's live or recording, and I think I have 25 profiles loaded on that one. It's nothing, but it's all amps that I know from real life. I have like several Vox AC30s, some Friedman, some Marshall, things that I know, and I can get out of those every sound that I need, so for every situation. Yeah, I try. One thing I learned from this whole pandemic thing is to not to look into the future too much, because I used to do that before, and I try not to do it anymore because I find it very stressful. So I'm like living in the day, and right now, like, I hope that next year will be more or less normal, at least in summer, so we can have some summer festivals. Right now, I'm on the road with Nico for like for almost 4 years, and I'm very happy with that. It satisfies me what I'm doing there, and I love the whole crew. So hopefully I will have some more time with them. As far as live goes, and studio is whatever comes around, actually. Whatever comes around, whatever the publisher wants me to do. Right now I discovered my love for K-pop. I never knew, but yeah, you never stop learning. They asked me they said like, hey Mike, are you into crazy stuff? And I'm like, well, it depends. And they said, hey, do you want to write some K-pop, because we're missing K-pop writers. Nobody wants to do that. And I started listening into it, and I fell in love with it, honestly, because most of the songs are so well done, so well produced. There's so much going on. It's really like elaborate productions, and there's a lot of guitar stuff going on. A lot of funk stuff, which I love. A lot of funk stuff. Then some random metal breakdown with like some crazy leads, and so I'm happy with that. That's what I'm doing right now, and yeah, we'll see what the next year brings. As far as that goes, I'm personally, honestly, super happy, man. So keep up with the great work. I'm really satisfied, especially for a guy like me that doesn't like to experiment a lot with tones and everything, and it's so simple. I love about that thing that it's so simple once you learn how it works, and I have everything at the palm of my hand, and I love it, and the tones are amazing. So people always say like, hey, you have a great tone, and I'm like, yeah, I know. Thank you.